This is the Raw Life Health Show.
This is Paul Neeson from the Raw Life Health Show. Today I'm going to be answering questions that people have been asking me about the raw food diet and lifestyle. And you can also add comments and ask your own questions under this video that's going to be posted. You can just post your question or comments there. And we're going to end off with a question for everyone today. But some of the questions I get most often I'd like to address right now. And the question I get most often probably is, how does somebody maintain their weight on a raw food diet? And another question to add on to that is, especially if they're not eating fruit or sweet fruit and so on. Well, the first thing is to maintain weight on a raw food diet. We have to understand we're doing this all wrong. Let me explain. When I was very sick with inflammatory bowel disease, I was trying to eat more food to put on weight, but I kept losing weight and losing weight. The colon was inflamed and I wasn't able to put on weight, and it seemed like the more I ate, the more weight I lost. It was going against everything I was trying to do. And I was so depressed one day I just gave up. This is before I knew about health and the raw food diet, but I just gave up. I said I'm going to stop eating, and I was just going to give up and just stop eating. Well, I went and without thinking about fasting, I know what fasting is, I went and I laid down, and for 3 days all I did was take sips of water. And I felt better than I've ever felt in many years. And then I went on the scale to see how much weight I've lost in those 3 days, and I actually put on a pound. You see, sometimes you have to rest the body and let it heal before the weight will come back. And I was eating so much and then starting to eat more fattening foods and high calorie foods trying to put on the weight, but I wasn't giving my body a chance to rest and do its job. And that's what we have to do. It goes against everything we've learned about putting on weight. You got to eat more and all of this stuff. So on a raw food diet, that's what a lot of people tend to do. They tend to eat more to put on weight. And sometimes they're eating the raw junk foods, the dehydrated foods, the fattening foods. They're eating at the wrong times, too much, too late, and too often. And they're actually costing themselves from putting on the weight. So what I have found is sometimes we got to rest, but other things we need to do is, I have found one of the most common reasons people do not maintain or put on weight on a raw food diet, and they're usually underweight, is because they do not get good quality sleep. Understand, all healing and cleansing is taking place during sleep, and when you get good sleep on a consistent basis, that's when the body heals, cleanses, and also when muscle grows. But what's happening in the raw food movement, people are eating too much, they're eating too late, they're not getting enough sleep, they're not exercising enough, and this is creating a big problem. So we have to make sure that we get the right amount of sleep, we get the right amount of exercise. Another thing is the foods we do eat. I have found out just more chlorophyll we need in our body, because the oxygen is going to help us actually get bigger and stronger as well. So things like E3 Live, kale, sunflower sprouts, even wheatgrass. These are the things that's going to help us. If you look at a gorilla is big and strong, and they're eating mostly green chlorophyll. You know, they're not eating tons and tons of fruit, as we might think. Per pound for body weight, they eat very little, as a matter of fact, compared to us. We're such a lower body weight, but we eat so much more fruit. Now, speaking about sweet fruits and so on, a lot of raw foodists think that's the only way to get a high calorie diet without getting all that fat. Well, the problem begins with first counting calories. This is some theory that started in the late 80s, that people started to decide, well, they're going to count calories and they're going to eat a lot of foods throughout the day to keep metabolism up and all this other stuff. And it just confused more people about nutrition than anything else. You have to understand, the body will adapt to what you're doing. And when you're eating a toxic diet, you know, it's going to not figure things out as well as if you're eating a clean diet and your body is cleaned out. For example, I used to eat a lot of food. Like I said, I used to have trouble putting on weight. Now I can eat very little amount of food and I can put on weight with no problem, as long as I'm getting the proper amount of sleep, I'm getting the proper amount of exercise, drinking enough water, breathing fresh air, and taking my chlorophyll. I don't count calories, so I don't know how many calories I eat. But one of the problems I see on a raw food diet is people are saying, well, you know, they can't eat it. They think I'm telling them not to eat any fruit or any sweet food or anything like that. And unless somebody has cancer, diabetes, or hypoglycemia or something like that, I never tell anyone not to eat any fruit. You know, I tell people if they're dealing with a disease that's sugar related, not to eat fruit while they're dealing with that. But there's nothing wrong. Fruit is one of the greatest foods on the planet. However, the problem is overdoing the fruit. When you're overdoing the fruit, just like I was overeating creating a problem to stop me from putting on weight, when you're overeating on fruit, you're creating fermentation in the body, and you're creating many other issues that are sugar related. That's the most common causes of disease today from a diet standpoint is too much sugar. Not even too much fat, but too much sugar. So you see, fruit is not the problem, but too much sugar is the problem. And if we're taking in more sugar than we can burn, we're gonna suffer the consequences. So what I recommend, people say to me, well, you know, on a raw food diet, you know, they just have the need to eat more and more and more. And this is a problem with a 100% raw vegan diet. And this is why I don't recommend people eat a 100% raw vegan diet. I recommend people add a little cooked foods to their diet or a little animal products to their diet. Now, most raw people are going to choose the cooked foods, and I think that might be the better way to go for most people. But if people don't have an issue with it morally and they want to do some animal products, doing some raw goat's milk or some raw goat's cheese or something like that will help them. And also eating a little cooked food might help. Definitely will help. Here's the problem. I have found that when somebody's eating a 100% raw vegan diet, at first they're going to thrive. They're going to feel amazing. But after doing that for several years, they're just going to be too hungry, and they're just going to consistently never be satisfied. And it's not a true hunger where they need food. It's a hunger where they're never satisfied and they always want more and more and more. So most people that I see on a 100% raw vegan diet are overeating, and they're just never satisfied with the food they are eating. That's most people, not all people. But I also know that there are very few people out there that are truly on a 100% raw vegan diet and not thriving and thriving. And if you don't take my word for it, look around, and where are they? There are some people doing it for a couple of years, and that's fine, but most people aren't doing it for long term. Again, if you're overcoming an illness, going on a 100% raw vegan diet is wonderful. It's a great way to cleanse and get rid of that. Adding a little cooked food to that later on can help keep you mentally, emotionally, and physically at that sanity point where you're not going to just go crazy looking for more food and eat raw junk foods, just try to feel satisfied and think you need to put on weight, so you're going to overeat on sugar and fruits and things like that. If you do this the right way, you can thrive, and you can do wonderful on this. So just understand, everyone out there, you can put on muscle on a raw food diet. You can maintain your weight on a raw food diet. There's many different ways to go about it, but you still need to have the high quality, raw, ripe, fresh, organic fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. So if you want 1 or 2 bananas, that's fine. If you want 3, that'd be okay if you're an athlete. 4, possibly okay. But when you start eating 10, 15, 20 bananas a day, you have to start questioning, well, is it okay to eat 20 bananas a day? And maybe if I had, you know, a little steamed millet or something, or sprouted quinoa, maybe that'll help me from from overeating on bananas and things like that. So we have to put things in perspective here. I know how wonderful it is to be on a 100% raw vegan diet. It's wonderful. But I also know that most people do not stick with it, do not do it. From my experience and what I'm seeing with other people is people aren't thriving on a raw vegan diet. And one of the first places they realize it is they're not satisfied with what they're eating, and they're not satisfied with the way they look. Now, if you're out there, if you're doing a 100% raw vegan diet for a long time, my blessings go out to you. But most people out there struggle with this, and if you're struggling with it, just understand you don't have to put yourself in a box and be on a 100% raw vegan diet. And trust me, most people that say they're on a 100% raw vegan diet are not. Now, so there's many different ways to go about that, and you can decide what way is best for you and experiment with everything. But if you're struggling with it, just don't give up. Understand the majority of your diet should be raw vegan, and then from there you can decide what works best for you. Keep experimenting and see what works best for you, and it's all about enjoying what you're doing, not doing it and struggling. So my question to everyone out there is, what is your favorite way to do this? Is it a 100% raw vegan diet? Is it adding a lot of fruit to your diet to maintain the weight? Is it less than 100% raw vegan diet with a little cooked foods in there? Or is it even eating some animal products? What works for you, so other people can read these comments and everything else, and then maybe they can find what works for them. It's not about one person's right and one person's wrong. It's about what's working for us. So we can maintain this, we can do this, and everyone can be wonderful, you know, and have joy while they're eating a raw food diet. Myself, I exercise, and you can see on YouTube, you can see my exercise videos and everything else, but I'm not Superman or whatever, but, here I am, I maintain my muscle, and we all have this great opportunity to do so, and you have that opportunity also. So, whatever it is you want to accomplish, whatever your goals are, just do it with a smile, have joy, and this is Paul Neeson saying, we'll see you tomorrow on the Raw Life Health Show.
This is the Raw Life Health Show. Raw Life, brighten up your life.